Chapter 5. I think it's time to get you inside. I'll serve you some warm food, show you to your room, run a nice warm bath, and then you can fall asleep, Mr. Wells said. Mr. Wells looked over at Miles. Miles nodded his head for yes. What did Miles nod for? It will be half an hour, sir, Miles said. Let's go have a bath first, then, Mr. Wells suggested. Mr. Wells picked my limp body up again and carried me out of the limo. Miles followed afterwards. It was dark out. Was it still the same day? It couldn't be. My mind couldn't process the day it had just lost. Mr. Wells moved too fast for me to really gather my surroundings. You will love your room, Mr. Wells began to say. It's gigantic, with a full king-size bed, all to yourself. A fireplace and books. You have your own bathroom. It's large, and the bathtub could fit 4 grown adults, and it has massaging jets. You will like it here, he said. I didn't say anything. How could I respond? How could I say, yeah, I'll really like it here. The only thing missing are my parents because you have still purchased me and taken me away. What are your hobbies? Mr. Wells inquired. It was then I began to see things around me. I looked at the house in front of me. The best that I could come up with was that we were on an acreage. There was a beautiful white mansion. He took me through the stone path surrounded by fountains and up a set of stone stairs. Miles stepped ahead of us and punched a key code in. The large double doors opened. Do you think you can walk, Karen? Mr. Wells asked. I nodded. I wasn't sure if I could or not, but I thought I would give it a try. I rubbed the drying tears from my eyes and prepared to be set down. When he sat me down, he held on to me long enough that he was sure I could stand on my own. I'll give you a tour of the house later, but for now, head up those stairs, he said. The stairs were right in front of me in the middle of the foyer. There were doors on either side of me and behind the staircase. There were a lot of stairs. Maybe I couldn't do this by myself. If you need help, just ask, he said. There were 25 stairs. I held on to the railing and slowly made my way stair by stair. I wasn't hurt. I was a bit sore, but nothing was drastically done to me. I didn't know why it was so hard for me to get up the stairs. I suppose I was emotionally drained. Maybe that's why. I clung to the railing for support, and Mr. Wells and Miles slowly followed behind me. I took the stairs one by one. In my head I counted. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Just one more to go. 25. I made it. I was out of breath. Truthfully, I was quite tired. I didn't even really want to eat. I didn't even want to have a bath. Again. I just wanted to go to sleep. But I was scared to go to sleep, as I thought I would have the nightmares again. That night was going to haunt me for a very long time. I also didn't think the terrors were going to stop, as new ones would probably replace them. Good girl, he said when I made it to the top. There's just a little more to go. Now at the end of this hallway to the right is your room. I sighed. I didn't want to walk anymore. Would you like help? He offered. No. I quickly snapped back. I want to do it by myself. I was acting stubborn. At that moment, I didn't want to feel his body. I didn't want to seem so helpless. "Okay," he said. Leaning towards the wall for support, brushing my hand along it as I went, I followed the long hallway. There was dark red carpet outlined in gold. There were rooms on either side of me. And then there were pictures on the wall. They were not your typical rich person $1,000,000 paintings. They were haunting images. There were pictures of hands with chains, naked women bound by straps, forced into weird positions. There were people having sex, men hitting the women. There was a woman strapped to a bed on their stomach that was being spanked or whipped. I couldn't tell. My heart sunk. It wasn't just any man in the paintings. The men in the paintings resembled Mr. Wells. Just how bad was it going to be here? I thought he was going to be sensible, decent. But now I was a little scared. I made it to the end of the hallway. I'm sure he saw me look at all those pictures. Did he feel guilty doing any of it? My throat felt tight as I continued onward. "Let me open the door for you." He came in front of me, and after searching in his pocket, he took out a key and opened the door. "It's locked from the outside," he said. That didn't make me feel better, knowing that he could lock me inside. "You never did answer my question from before. What do you like to do in your spare time?" he asked, opening the door for me. Before entering, I answered his question. "I enjoy swimming." "Well, I have an indoor pool, and I'm sure that a bikini would look quite good on you," he stated. I didn't say anything back to him. When I stepped into the room, it was just as he described it. It was big. Lots of bookshelves, a large bed with drapes hanging from it. There were a couple doors, a set of doors that led out to a balcony, and the fireplace with 2 comfortable-looking chairs beside it. The colors of the room were gold, purple, and accented with black. "Miles, go prepare her the food. Something light and warm like soup," Mr. Wells said. Miles nodded and went down the stairs. "The bathroom is this way," he said. He put his arm around me, and I cringed a bit as my mind went back to the thoughts of the pictures hanging on the wall. What if I were to become one of them? "I think I can do it myself," I said. "I don't think you can," he stated. "Your legs, they're wobbling." I looked at my legs. I couldn't deny that. "It's a Japanese-style bathroom. You need to wash yourself before you get in the bathtub. And frankly, I don't think you have the energy to do it yourself. I won't do anything sexual. There will be a few days before that even happens," he said. My mind wasn't all there. I wondered if he would return me to my family if it would be too hard to cover up my disappearance. Maybe lots of people would search for me because I had been on the news a couple of times for swimming competitions. "I think I will be fine." Mr. Wells sighed heavily. "I was hoping you'd come to the right decision, but apparently that isn't the case. I don't think you can do this by yourself, and it would be irresponsible for me to let you even try. You don't have a choice. I'm going to help you." He said it more demanding this time too. "Fine," I answered, given that I wasn't being given a choice in the matter. After leading me into the bathroom, my nose filled with a scent given from a sauna. It was the smell of wood that was appealing to me. "Undress," he said. "There's a basket to put your clothes in." Mr. Wells added, pointing to a basket. I didn't really want to undress. I reluctantly slowly began to take my clothes off, looking around as I did so. The bathroom was filled with a large mirror on one wall, a sink with a large counter and drawers, as well as a vanity on the other side with another mirror and a salon-style chair to sit on. There was a large tile bathtub, covered with cedar wood, that was in the middle of the room. There were stairs to step into it. On the side with the mirror there was a small wooden stool to sit on, and a set of taps with a shower head. When I finished undressing, I did my best to cover the parts that I could. Mr. Wells had taken everything off him except his pants. Come, sit on the stool over here, he said. I nodded and slowly walked over to the stool. He had turned the shower head on to fill a bucket with water. I hoped it was warm water. After he had filled the bucket with water, I was sitting down. I wondered why he wouldn't just use the shower head. A moment later, my trail of thought stopped as he dumped the bucket of water on my head. I was shocked at the amount of force that came out from the bucket. He didn't just slowly pour the water. He full out dumped it. After dumping the water over my head, he then used the shower head, letting the water flow over top of my hair. He set down the shower head and reached for a bottle of shampoo. He poured a small amount into his hands and began to massage my head. It felt and smelt wonderful. I was relaxing as his strong hands massaged the shampoo into my head. For a moment, I forgot what was happening to me. His hands were more melodic than that of Michael's had been. He washed the shampoo out and continued on to the conditioner phase. He combed through my hair with his fingers and then reached for something I didn't know until he pinned the conditioned hair to the top of my head. Conditioner works best once left in before washing it, he said. He grabbed a cloth and soaked it in the water from the tap. Let me see your face, he said kindly. I turned towards him. He was kneeling on the ground, his pants soaked from the water. His hand held my chin gently, and he began wiping the makeup that stained my cheeks off. You have a very pretty face. He grabbed another bottle and poured the contents of it onto a sponge. He began with my back, rubbing the body, washing my skin all over. When his hand started to creep over my shoulders to my front area, I placed my hand over his to take the sponge away. Please, let me do that myself, I said. He let go of the sponge and I washed my chest and my arms. I set the sponge down and he grabbed the shower head once again and rinsed me off. Then he took the clip in my hair out and rinsed through that. He stood up and walked towards the tub, taking the cover off. You can come sit in it now, he said. I nodded, covering my body once more to go sit in the tub. I could see the steam rising from it now that it was uncovered. So what are your plans for me anyways? I asked. Are you going to take pictures of me like the woman in the hallways? Mr. Wells paused before answering, letting out a sigh. I don't think you want to talk about this right now, Mr. Wells replied plainly. Could you tell me a little bit? I started. It would help put my mind to rest a little bit. I sat in the tub and my body relaxed. This was more relaxing than before. I felt safer here for some reason. Maybe the water was laced with something. Well, I consider myself a dominant, and you will be my submissive. You will do as I say, dress as I say, look as I say. In fact, once we go over our agreement, I will do your hair. Every morning I will bathe you. And you will not talk back about it. You will not talk back about what I do to you. And, according to that paper I received, apparently, you don't like getting your hair cut. So, if you ever do anything bad, I'm going to cut your hair as punishment. A shiver ran through my spine as I thought of my hair being hacked off by Michael. He did it so crudely. So, if you want to keep these long locks, you will be expected to behave. But sometimes I just might like to cut it for fun, he added. If you resist, I'll cut more. Are you going to hit me? I asked. Yes. Why? It turns me on, Mr. Wells said. I didn't say anything. I sunk a little bit farther underwater. I blew bubbles from my mouth. Can I have a one-piece bathing suit for your pool? I inquired. He laughed lightly. But a two-piece would look so much better. A pink one, with beads. It will just barely keep your breasts. He started reaching his hands underwater around my back and squeezing both of my breasts. My eyes opened and I quickly pulled away. Sorry, he said, holding his hands up in defense. I said I wouldn't do anything. Please forgive me for my rudeness. I didn't say anything back again. When his hands cupped my breasts, it felt good, and I didn't want it to feel good. I'm a speed swimmer, a competitive speed swimmer, I said. A two-piece bathing suit would come off if I were to try swimming in it. I wouldn't mind seeing that, Mr. Wells smiled. I scowled at him. Just how old was he anyways? He looked to be in his late 30s. We sat in silence for a little over 10 minutes. I began to feel dizzy from the water. Mr. Wells stood up and walked over to the bathroom door and took a large, white, fluffy housecoat from it. Here, let's get you out before I poach you. I'll dry your hair so you don't catch a cold. I can only imagine how fast you will get sick over the last couple days you've had. And I will do your hair, he specified. I wanted to say something back. I didn't want anyone else touching my hair, or cutting it for that matter. I didn't want to put up a fight, though, in fear that he might punish me by cutting more hair. I was traumatized enough that night, so I didn't want more hair cut. Okay, I said quietly and stepped out of the tub. He covered me in the housecoat, and I wrapped and tied it up. It was thick, an absorbent microfiber. Good girl, he said. He led me to the vanity and sat me down in the salon chair. He reached for the supplies that were neatly spread out and grabbed a wide-tooth comb. Making his way through my long hair, gently taking out the knots that had formed. When he came in front of me to comb out the side bangs that were given to me prior, my stomach turned, thinking of when it had happened. The uncomfortable feeling of the straps against my naked skin, the constricting neck strap, and the gag that was in my mouth. I don't know why no one has suggested a fringe for you. A blunt one. It really would frame your face. I mean, these side bangs, they look nice and all, but they would complement your face a lot more if it was a pixie cut. I shivered again. That seems a little too short for me, I shakily said, not wanting my hair that short. He continued to comb through my hair until there was a knock on the door. Come in, Mr. Wells said. It was Miles that came in. He came by, sir. He left you with what you requested. Good, good. And will he be back tomorrow too? Yes. And what of supper? It should be done when I go check on it in a moment, Miles answered. Then please go retrieve it and bring it up for her to eat in bed. He paused. Actually, I'll come help you, Mr. Wells said. Mr. Wells walked over to the salon-style stand-up hairdryer and rolled it over to where I was. Now, I'm going to switch this on. You are to stay here, in this chair, until I come back. If you leave, I won't hesitate to strap you back to that chair to take more hair off. Do you understand? He said sternly. I nodded. Speak, Mr. Wells instructed. Yes, sir, I replied. Good, he said, and placed the dryer over my head, lowering it and turning it on. The sound filled my ears, and I couldn't hear anything else but that. Miles and Mr. Wells left the room. Within another 10 minutes, my hair was dry, and Mr. Wells had entered the room again. He had brought more clothes for me. This time I saw fuzzy pajamas. He shut the dryer off and ran his fingers through my hair. Your hair is so soft, he complimented. Put the pajamas on and go lay in your bed. I will hand you your food there. I nodded. Mr. Wells left the bathroom and left me with the pajamas. I held on to them tight. The pants were really fuzzy. He didn't hand me any undergarments, though. Thankfully, he never took the basket of the clothes I wore here away. I sifted through the basket to put on the underwear and sports bra. Without them, I felt naked, regardless of what other clothes I was wearing. I put on the fuzzy pair of pajama pants and the white t-shirt that he'd provided. I took a deep breath and stepped out of the bathroom. Mr. Wells was waiting by the bed that was ready for me to climb into. As I climbed into the bed, he covered me with the blankets. I sat up against the pillows that were stacked up behind me. He set a food tray over my legs. The tray had a covered dish on it and a glass of water. Listen, I had Miles get in contact with my doctor. After seeing the effect of what nightmare you had in the car, I wanted to make sure you could get a good night rest. I had him prescribe you a sleeping aid, as well as an anti-anxiety med that should help you calm down. So please take them. I think you will feel better if you do. He set a tiny plastic cup with 3 pills inside. I bit my inner cheek, looking at the pills, contemplating whether I should take them or not. If this is going to be a problem, I will be forced to give you an injection instead. I will have Miles hold you down so I can do it, he said. Reluctantly, I shook my head and took the cup of pills and put it in my mouth, following it with a large sip of water. But maybe it was for the better. A dreamless sleep. Good. Now here's your food, Mr. Wells said as he uncovered the bowl of soup. I will leave you with this for the night, and I will take my leave. I want you to eat, get a good night's sleep, and I will wake you at 10:30 in the morning if you're not already. I will once again wash you and do your hair and give you some clothes. You will have a busy day tomorrow. I nodded as I looked at the bowl of soup in front of me. I then looked at him. Good night, he said, and held my hand and kissed it lightly. He reached and turned on the lamp beside my bed and walked to the door, turning the main light off in the room. The fire was going, leaving a faint glow in the room, with a lamp and moonlight shining in from the windows. The door shut behind him, and I heard a click from the lock. I'm not even sure what kind of food was in the soup. I played around with it with my spoon. I ate a few bites of the chicken and a couple of potatoes, but a metallic taste set in my mouth, making me feel nauseous. I drank the rest of the water and placed the tray back on the nightstand. I couldn't eat the rest of it. I reached over to turn the lamp off and rearrange the pillows to my liking. I could feel myself getting tired, noting that it was probably the medication. I curled up into a ball on my side that faced the moon, and the tears started to fall from my eyes again. I wanted Duke and Star.